Hi everyone, welcome. This is going to be a walkthrough video of EngageXU, looking at some features connected to the officer and administrator experience. So the first thing you're going to want to do is navigate to EngageXU. You can go to xavier.edu/EngageXU and it will take you to the landing page for our community home. You then click sign in and Xavier University login. You should then be able to enter your credentials and it will log you in and you'll hit the landing page, which is right here. As I scroll down, I can see a few features like upcoming events for our community, different groups that I'm a member of or an officer of. You also have access to this left navigation dashboard, which right now I'm not logged into a group, and so the dashboard features are really customized for my needs. As an advisor, it's really helpful to use this tool to go over to my workflows and see what forms or what approvals are pending me to specifically review. So you can scroll up and down through here. There's also my groups, my events, so anything that you've created, just really more of a customized experience for you as a unique user. So then secondarily, a lot of people are going to get into the system and navigate specifically to a group where you're trying to do something. So at the top here, when I click on groups, you'll be able to see a drop-down list of all the organizations. It'll show whatever you looked at most recently, and you also can star groups that you are a member or an advisor of or an officer in, so that way you can more quickly have them populate at the top of your list. You'll see groups here like OSI, Club and Organization Management. That's really a behind-the-scenes administrative feature that our office uses. It's not a group that we have a lot of student members or that officers of organizations should join. But I'll take a look at this. Let's go to Student Activities Council first, because I know that they've got content. So when I navigate to the page, one thing I want to point out to you is that the way that you just landed here, where you really land and see a bunch of feature boxes, this is the officer view. And in EngageXU, when I say officer, it's not only just student officers as we might think, like a president, vice president. Officer is also what they use for anyone who has administrative control of a group. So when I talk about officers, I'm also talking about advisors. So when you land on this page, you're going to see that there's some administrative feature controls and that the dashboard on the left has changed. So over here, instead of it being like my workflow, I'm now looking at surveys and forms as it relates to Student Activities Council. I'm looking at their members, I'm looking at emails, things that they're using to communicate with each other. So from this page, this is where you can see from the administrative feature what you can control as an officer of the group. Now, if you are an average member and you don't have an officer role or any administrative privileges, this is not the page that you land on. You actually will land on the group page, which looks more like this. It's a little more branded, a little more generic. It really focuses sort of on what is this organization, what do they do, who do I contact if I'm interested in being a part of the group, and I can see that there's some features here as well. So the pieces like edit logo, edit cover, page settings, I'm seeing that because I have officer administrative privileges. The average student would not see some of those options to change and edit the community at all. So looking at this group, I'm going to navigate us over to settings first. So in the settings piece for your group settings, there's a couple pieces we have locked that only the highest level admins, which are really Office of Student Involvement staff, can edit. For example, your group name. So you're actually not allowed to just decide to change your name. You have to petition to Student Government Association for a name change if you're a club or a UAO or subordinate body. The group type that you've been assigned, that's something you also can't change because there's certain controls built into different types of groups. So I can see here there's a whole bunch of different types. Some of them are clubs and student organizations, and others are offices and departments and other advisory boards. Categories are also not something that you can change. Each group gets assigned to one category of what best fits their need and what they meet on campus. Logo is something that can be changed. Your group acronym also cannot be changed, so this is also something that's locked along with your mission statement. And part of that is if you want to change, again, sort of the root of who you are as an organization, you have to petition that change to student government. And that mostly is because when they gave you recognition as a club, you said, this is who we are and what we plan to do as an organization. And they said, okay, great, that meets our needs, and we're going to go ahead and recognize you officially. As you scroll through here, you'll see there's some different options. I think it's really important for you to pay attention to what the different options are in settings. Published means that your group is out there and it's available. It can be searched and seen, and so all of your groups should be listed by default as published. Hiding from the groups list, no, you wouldn't want your group to be hidden. Closing your membership, so this really is up to you as to whether or not you're allowing new members to join the group. Student Activities Council is a group that students have to apply to and be selected to be a part of, and so they do have a closed membership. The advisor and the current officers add and subtract members as they're a part of the group. And then deactivating your group page, I'm pretty sure that we have deactivated that choice. You can't just decide with a click of a button, we're just not going to be an active club anymore. So there's a few other features here that I think are important. Membership is one of them in terms of being able to establish how can you join our organization. Soon the feature will be included where you can set up a fee amount, but it is not live and active yet, so please leave this blank. And this is where you'll be able to assess dues and memberships from people. You also can navigate over to more, and you'll see some different options, like where you can update your group photo. You can create a welcome message, so you can build a message that anyone who joins your group would get and receive automatically, and that's in the email feature that I'll show you in a bit. You can scroll through and see there's a few other pieces, like down here, allow non-members to submit events. What's your default event privacy? So by default, are your events accessible to everyone or accessible only to members of your group? So you can go through and select different pieces. Then at the very bottom, there's some custom fields that we have populated for you. So this is where your student organization fund number comes into play. And then if you have a selection process, that piece is here as well. So just showing you a few features related to group settings. As you navigate over here, you'll be able to see that you can also adjust under this dashboard piece, officers. So this is an important part to make sure that your officers are updated. And as, for example, a student becomes or stops serving in a role, we want to make sure that you go in and make adjustments because there's certain functions in the community where communication goes to people based on what officer position they have. We do still require that all of our student organizations have a president, a vice president, a treasurer, and an advisor. We also know that other organizations have lots of complexity, and so you can add other officers here. You can create some custom positions for them, but we want to make sure at all times that you have a president, vice president, treasurer, and advisor that are all indicated as such here. Within officer permissions, you can actually go through and determine, for example, if you've got certain members of your group or certain officers that you want them to have access to some features but not all features, you can make those adjustments in the community. And then another piece we get a lot of questions about is how can I turn off certain notifications as an officer? You can go into this notifications piece and you can decide, Jake, for example, do you want to get a web notice, an email notice, a mobile push whenever any of these things happen? So especially down here where you're looking at like event registrations that are submitted, you're looking at new members that are asking to be validated or to join your group, surveys and forms being answered. So you can go through and customize the notifications piece. And any officer that has the permission level to do so can make those notification changes. For many of your organizations, you only have probably 3 to 5 people listed as officers for your group. Student Activities Council, it's a little bit different, so they have 16 right now. Email communication is another piece that's helpful. So within your community, you can compose emails and you can send it out to your members. The email composer actually works really, really similar to MailChimp. So you can go through and decide, we want to send out something to all the people that are in our group, and we want to craft up an email. This is actually how you're currently receiving the SGA Student Weekly, as well as the Newswire. So as you can see, there's a lot of depth to what you can create, just like you would with a MailChimp account. But the best part is this is totally free and it's built into the community already. You can schedule emails to go out. You can create drafts and templates. So for example, SAC is doing, I think, a weekly email to their members. And so they have a template set up that they can just go in, and like the SGA Student Weekly that you all receive on Mondays is based on a template. So it's got some graphics and things that are saved every week, and they just have to drop in the new stories and new pictures as they have those pieces. So events is another piece that I want to highlight for you. The event piece really is going to be something we hope that you utilize quite a bit. And it's ready for you now, so you can start creating events and you can go through and populate information. We would encourage you to make events for meetings, for your activities, for things that you're hosting. There's also a creation feature as you're building an event and submitting this. There's a creation for video conferencing. So when you get down here, you can actually request to build in a Zoom meeting app, and this will create a link for you to use that you can share out with members. And then there's a whole bunch of other features here. This is where you can add a cover photo. And so you will want some sort of an image that it's set here to be 380 pixels high, 760 wide. So it's a rectangle. And this is what will post and what will move around on the community page whenever you submit your event. You can put flyers and other things here as well. Then as you scroll down, if you're going to run a registration in advance, you can allow different people to register for your event, to tell you that they're coming into RSVP, and you can lock certain people. So saying like this might be an event that's only for our members, or it's only for EngageXU users. There's not going to be like anyone in the public that's invited to this. You can go through and make those determinations. Then as you build the registration options, this is where eventually, once we turn on the cash piece, you'll be able to sell tickets to your events. So like the boat dance event that SAC puts on every year, they'll build out this event and they'll build in the different ticket levels and set like maximum amounts that can be sold. And so that way students can actually register or RSVP that they're coming to boat dance and then get tickets and pay for those in advance. And it will keep track of your attendance and make sure you don't oversell. You can set your attendance limits here. By default, one thing to notice is that there's a 24-hour feedback request. This means that 24 hours after someone checks into your event or registers for your event, they would get an email that says, hey, do you have any feedback for us? Unless you are specifically looking for this, I'd encourage you to uncheck it because it becomes a little bit of overkill with getting messages and communicating if you're not actually asking something. The one cool thing is that you can create a form if you want to have a survey, and you can make that a part of your feedback request. So it can say, like, because you attended this event, we'd like for you to fill out this survey for us, which gives you more student input. Down here you can see you can build in sponsors. There's co-hosts, so if you're working with another club, you can go through and indicate who it is that's co-hosting the event with you. And then once you hit save and you submit forward, that actually will trigger an event form where you'll go through, I'll jump to it in just a second, and it will walk you through a process where you can get permission to host certain events or reserve spaces. So give me 1 second and we'll jump over that. And here we are. So once I hit save and submitted my event, it'll trigger this event and space registration form. Some of you may have very complex events that have several different needs in terms of reserving space and getting permission and notifying the university. And some of you may just be submitting for like a weekly meeting. And if that's the case, it's actually pretty quick to fill out. So as you scroll through here, this will help you with events with large audiences, political events, events where alcohol is present, public speakers or performances, protest rallies and demonstrations, events that are part of a larger week or that have fundraisers involved, tabling, outdoor reservations, outdoor postings. So as you will go through and fill out this additional piece, you'll say, here's my club. So you might go through and decide you're the Pre-Vet Society. And then what is it you're trying to do? So indicate like perhaps you're going to show a movie. So you're going to do a film screening. And then when you hit next here, it's going to present you with some additional questions. It'll say like, are you trying to reserve a yard or one of these spaces that can be reserved through the system? Let's say no, none of the above. and then who's expected to attend. Let's say that it's Xavier undergraduate students only. How many people are you expecting? So let's say 50. Outside vendors, nope. Will the advisor be present? Not sure. Additional faculty and staff, no. Will you have amplified sound? Yes, because we're showing a movie. Potential for controversy? No. Media, there's no plan to involve the media. No alcohol. No no transportation involved. So again, each of these questions are really built to trigger, like, are you requesting travel? Are you requesting alcohol? So as you go through and answer the question, it will limit what questions you're asked next. It's not a fundraiser. Not sure if needed. Okay. And then this page is something that was added in during COVID-19, and it's just some good reminders about how is your event going to work, and are you going to be able to restrict and limit the number of people that are coming. We'll take attendance on EngageXU. We will run a pre-registration. People have to wear masks. We'll have limited attendance. The capacity of our event location. I've submitted it. Masks and distancing. We're not having food. There is no transportation. We will have hand sanitizer. We'll have officers helping monitor the event. And then as you get to this last page, all you have to do is, I've submitted this information, hit agree and hit submit. And once you do, it'll actually process through your form and get all of the approvals, your advisor approval, if you need to reserve spaces, etc. All of those pieces are taken care of for you. So that's the event process. It's actually pretty easy. I know it looks like there were several clicks, and currently with COVID, we've got a couple things we have to take care of. But let's jump back to looking at the event piece. And so as I look at events, it will actually then populate on this master calendar. So you can see all the different events that this group is hosting. These will all push out so that a student who's browsing to see what's happening on campus, what can I be a part of, I can see that there is fitness classes here, there's intramurals, I can see that there's all kinds of upcoming events, things happening today or later. You can go through and select event types. And so again, the more you populate meetings and events on the calendar, the more that there is to see. And you can actually view it in a calendar mode if you're curious to like browse around. You can sort by organizations and you can see who's hosting what. So we're ready for your events. We want you to go ahead and start populating these now and getting them put into the system. Okay, so let's take a look at another feature. So I'll go back to Student Activities Council. So let's look at surveys and forms. So you can create forms or surveys or polls for your organization, and they're all really simple to do. We've got a how-to guide on our website, so you can go to create a new form, and let's say that this is going to be like an officer application. You can then go through and determine under survey settings who it is that is creating the form. So let's say it's Deb, the advisor, and that every time a form is submitted, got to hit save. So you'd hit save down here, and then you'd notify who is it that I want to receive notifications whenever that form is filled out. So maybe you've got like an officer that's like an event planner, or maybe one of your VPs or something is the person that would want to be notified that there's an application that's been received. So here you can add a question, and as you go through, there's different types of questions you can add. So free text means that there's going to be like a single line. So you may say like, what's your name? Or like something where you say like, which officer position are you interested in running for? You can then have a multiple choice, which some of those pieces you could ask. So like, which officer role, and do you want to run for president? Add answer, do you want to run for VP? Things like that. There's multiple choice where you can go through and say, you know, which you're looking for like multiple responses. So like which positions have you previously held? And this is where you could list multiple things. And a student can then choose from the multiple lists. They can say, I've been this, I've been this. There's a multiple choice drop down as well. The free text multi-line is if you're asking more of an open-ended question. So this might be something where you'd ask like, why would you like to serve in this role? And this is where they'll be able to write something that's more like paragraphical rather than just like one single line or just a phrase. The file upload button is where you can say something like upload your resume, or you can ask people to upload other things to you. You can create a date calendar pop-up where they have to fill in like today's date, or you might ask like if you're hosting an event and you're doing some sort of a registration form, you might say like what day are you wanting to host this. The club list drop down here, so you can actually say, for example, let's say that you want to have a listing of certain types of groups that they can choose from. So maybe the question is like, which organizations are you a member of already? And so you can then choose, and they'll actually have like a drop-down list that they can choose to be a part of. Ranking allows you to do kind of a 1, 2, 3, like which one's your top choice. Election is for secret ballot voting. Signature line, this I wouldn't say holds up in court, but you can have a piece where you say like, I certify, I agree, I understand. And then finally, user selector. So this is going to be a piece where if you want to have anyone in the community pre-populated that they can choose, so you can say like, who is your advisor? They then will see a listing, and as they start typing a name, it'll suggest anyone in the community that fits that name. So as you work through and create any of these different event questions for your form, you can determine, is it going to be mandatory? Is this a question that's only going to be asked to current officers? Who can see this, the access rights? So you can go through and then hit save, and it will then allow you to keep going and creating. It saves as it goes, so when you're finished, you just hit back to surveys and forms. And here I've just created a really simple survey. If I want to see submissions, that would populate here. So right now there's 0. If I want to look at the survey in a preview mode, the only thing I put was officer application, who is your advisor? And so as I started typing my name, it'll make that suggestion, and it'll say, are you looking for Dustin Lewis, that kind of thing. So if I hit submit, it would then submit the form forward. So let's go back into SAC and look at the form that I just submitted to see what it looks like. So there's been one submission for an officer application, and here's what was submitted. And I only ask one question, but I can scroll down and see the answers to the questions. If you are generating something where there's like an application for membership and you get a lot of different people, you can go through and select everyone and generate a report, and it'll create an Excel spreadsheet that's got all their applications listed for you. So the forms, they can get really complicated. You can do a whole bunch of really interesting things, but what I showed you is just sort of a basic feature with form. A couple other things that I think are helpful for you to know. If I navigate back to our landing page, so again, we've talked about your features over here, your dashboard for you. We've talked about groups and how you can navigate that. We've talked about events. The other thing that I think is helpful is for you to see your notifications. So these are things that you've been notified about. So right now, the most recent thing is I can see that I submitted answers for officer application. So your notification settings, you can clear this, but this will always notify you to say, hey, someone's approved your form or something you submitted. And then also, and this was where I probably should have started, is the profile piece. It's great for you to upload your photo here. It's great for you to go through and edit your profile and put in different information, things that you're interested in, etc. Just so that way it can help connect other users to you. And it also can make some good suggestions if you are a student and you're trying to determine what are some things that I might be interested in exploring or getting involved in. It'll make suggestions based on what you're already connected to and what your interests already are. So that is just a very quick 25-minute crash course into EngageXU to sort of see some of the features and be able to explore about. Feel free, go through the system, ask questions, spend some time in these areas where I said, like the officer landings, where you can explore and see what are these settings, what does this do. Be curious and like explore around. Oh, one last thing, this is also very important, is the accounting book piece. If you are the officer of a club, so I'll go to 4Pause, and you're wanting to see how much money we have not received the allocations yet as of today, which is August 17th. We have not received the allocations to give out to groups for FY21, but what I can show you is the accounting book is connected and it allows you to see in real time what is the balance of your group. So 4Pause has not received their allocation for fiscal year 21 yet. This would just be the amount of money that they rolled forward with them from last year. So when I go to the accounting book, I'm up at the top now. I can see currently their balance is $82.15. As I scroll down, you'll be able to see line by line of transactions. So the only transaction you can see so far that's hit was just their carryover from last semester of the $82.15 that they carried over. You can click Show Archived and you can look at previous year transactions. You'll see that those are listed as FY20, but I would encourage you, if you go in and take a look and you look at some of the old transactions of like this was food on March 12th for $63.46. What I would encourage you to do is to make sure you then hide the archived again, because it will change some of the information at the top here, and it might show that you have more money available than you actually do. So just making sure you're only looking at FY21. Okay, now that's really it. That's your 28-minute crash course into some of the features with EngageXU. As always, reach out, ask us questions, explore, and you can reach anyone on our team if you email xuinvolvement@xavier.edu. Thanks so much.